Hello people, that time of week again, time for a book review. Today, 1984 by George Orwell. This is regarded as his literary masterpiece. It's set in a fictional version, obviously, of the year 1984. Bear in mind this book was written in the 50s, I believe. So it's set in a fictional, what was then the future, 1984, dystopian 1984. Set in a super state. Now, in this world, the planet is divided into three super states: Eurasia, Eastasia, and Oceania. And Britain falls in Oceania, and Britain is also called Airstrip 1. And the protagonist, Winston Smith, is a member of the governing party of this state, a member of the outer party. Obviously, if you know Stalinist Russia, you'd know that there was the inner party, outer party, etc. He's a member of the outer party, and his job is to delete or erase historical narrative, historical files, and rewrite them in order to keep up to date the media and keep up to date the party's ever-changing perspective on history. So if the party says that at one point we had a war over at this period of time, and then decides it doesn't want anybody thinking they had a war at that period of time, they will erase that narrative and put in a new one to say we was at peace or we was at war with this person instead of this person during that time. So that's his job, is to rewrite history, essentially. And it's set, this book is a scathing critique of Stalinist Russia. Orwell was obviously a famous socialist, and he savagely criticised communism in Russia through this book and through Animal Farm as well. So this is absolute scathing. You've got the Stalin character in the form of Big Brother, who resembles Stalin quite a lot in the description. And you've also got this fictional or this perceived underground resistance movement in the book, which seems to be led by a Trotsky-esque character. And this Winston Smith character ends up buying a diary, first of all, and then he starts writing thoughts in the diary in secret so the state doesn't catch on. And then he falls in love with someone and starts an affair, which is forbidden because the party and the state says that sex should only be reproductive, not for pleasure. And he starts seeing people around him, analysing them, thinking maybe they're an informant for Big Brother, which is the term coined by this book. One of the terms coined by this book that we use today. He starts thinking maybe this person is a leader of the resistance, maybe this person, etc., etc. And it's a love story on the surface. When you scratch the surface, it's a story of resistance to authority. It's a story of totalitarianism, and it's obviously a political narrative as well, because, as I say, it criticises Stalin and the USSR quite savagely. So there's many, many layers to this one, but Orwell in this book coined many phrases that we use in common usage today. So he coined the phrase thought crime, thought police. It coined the Room 101 concept, where you put anything you hate into Room 101. Room 101 in this book is the torture chamber that the state uses if they suspect you of being a thought criminal. They will round you up using their thought police. They will take you to Room 101, which is said to contain your worst fear. And they will torture you with that fear until you confess into whatever it is you've been accused of doing. And you become what's in this book called an unperson, which means basically you vanish forever and your history is completely erased and nobody seems to recall you, whether it's family, friends, relatives, everyone just seems to forget you. Now, this is one of my favourite books. One of my favourite fictional books of all time, primarily because there is so many parallels in this book with modern Western societies. It is scary. It's absolutely scary. If you think about the media, think about the way the media basically tells you what to think, tells you, particularly corporate media, tells you what you should be thinking, what your opinions should be. The way that books like this are nowadays pushed to the sidelines in favour of gossip rags and tabloid media and journalism. And he says in this book also about how people are distracted by football, beer, gambling. Now, I love a beer as much as the next man. I love a scratch card from time to time. But he says about all those things were used as distractions. They filled the minds of the proletariat, so they weren't focusing on the party, the state, the big brother thing. So that, I think, is very, 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 very relevant to today's society as well, because too many people these days are too busy focusing on celebrity gossip, football, gambling, and other things, to actually think for themselves and to actually build up a knowledge of the system that we live in and the system that rules their lives. So that was George Orwell's 1984. Absolutely brilliant. Modern classic, out of this world. It is George Orwell's masterpiece. Absolute masterpiece. So I really recommend you go out, you buy it if you haven't got it already, and you give it a read through, because it will seriously make you question the world in which we live in today. I know it was written as a criticism of Stalinist Russia, but there's many, many parallels between this book and the system in, say, Britain or America or France or anywhere. So go ahead and give that a read. That was George Orwell's 1984. I'll see you next week for another book review, and of course during the week when I'll be doing my regularly uploaded political or religious videos. See you around.